now is Court TV anchor, trial attorney, and former judge Ashley Willcott. Judge, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Of
Good
course.
morning.
Good morning. So you've covered this case extensively. The country has been watching this case from the very beginning. From a law enforcement perspective, what stands out to you?
The thing that stands out to me was this preventable, because we've all seen the video, and if you haven't, you should watch it, where law enforcement gets called to a domestic violence incident. They're not told it's domestic violence, but she's put in sitting right there in the back of the car. That's when she was talking to law enforcement, and they talked to her separately and then Brian Laundrie separately. And she says that she was a victim, and they even look at her and say, oh, it looks like you were slapped. Someone told us you were slapped by Brian, right? And instead of handling this properly with the right training as a domestic violence situation, they send them both on their way. So in my opinion, this death could have been prevented.
I do want to play another clip from our Brian Enton's conversation with Gabby's dad, Joe, and stepmom, Tara. Here's what Brian learned.
Has there ever been an apology?
No. And we're never going to get that.
At this point, I don't want one. I don't want one.
It doesn't help us.
I would love for them to be charged with something. I really, really would love that. Do I think that's happening now? Unfortunately, no.
Brian, obviously asking about the Laundrie family. You hear Gabby's stepmom, Tara, calling for charges against Laundrie's mom and dad. What legal recourse is there, at least at this stage, against Brian Laundrie's parents?
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So what we know is Brian Laundrie showed up at the house in the van that they'd been traveling in, he and Gabby Petito, chronicling their travels. And the family says, we don't know anything. We don't know what happened to Gabby Petito. And then he disappears. And the lawyer for the family says lots of hope that she's alive, that everything's okay. So it's very hard, and I think it's why so many people globbed onto this case. It's very hard to believe that they didn't know something about what happened. And I think criminal charges would have to be to the effect of that they assisted Brian Laundrie, that they conspired with Brian Laundrie, that they harbored someone that they knew was a fugitive, even though it was the own son. I wouldn't say this is ruled out. I don't know the details of that law enforcement knows, but I do believe if law enforcement knows any details that lends to any of those charges, we could still yet see that.
Based on your experience as a judge and, of course, a trial attorney, what from Gabby's experience do you look for as warning signs of domestic abuse? You mentioned the officers that arrived obviously missed the signs, but they also weren't trained, possibly.
Right. No, I think the training was missing, and you can't blame them for that. That's a system issue. But listen, there's some little things, if you look back, might have been red flags. Everything that she posted was picture perfection. And I think you have to think about, was this because she wanted it to be, or was she with someone who might have been overly controlling, manipulative? Did she ever disappear? Did she ever not want to be seen by friends? Did she ever not want to be on camera? What was he like? And if you look at some of the videos that posted, he seemed very annoyed, aggravated, unhappy with her. All of these can be little red flags, but again, the controlling behavior is what people really should pay attention to.
The Petito family, as you well know, pushed hard for their missing daughter. They wanted answers. What difference do you think their advocacy made in getting so much attention on Gabby's disappearance?
What a great question. It made all the difference. I believe the only reason this went to the level it did was because of their fierce advocacy for their daughter. Number one, she's missing, and all of a sudden there are no more videos by her. Number two, law enforcement had already dismissed it as though everything was fine, and it wasn't. And number three, the reality is, without them pushing so hard, I don't think it would have been as big of a deal that Brian Laundrie came back in the van they'd been traveling with without Gabby Petito. Thank you to them that they did fight so hard. This became a world story and really forced everyone to pay more attention, including law enforcement, in my opinion.
Documentaries and true crime, Judge, you know this as well as I do, have led to big breaks, at least those true crime series, those stories. When it comes to cold cases, even helps with legislation. What kind of impact do you expect this Netflix series could have?
Huge impact, because I think people are going to again turn an eye to domestic violence, what can happen in circumstances like this, and the reality of, even if it's your kid that might have been a perpetrator of this, you can't always lean in and protect them to the extent that you hurt everyone else. And at the end of the day, as you know, he did take his own life. So there was no good outcome in this case. And I think that's a lesson for everyone. Pay attention to the signs. And this can happen to anyone. It knows no people that domestic violence can potentially not happen to.
Yeah, I think this case specifically highlighted that, because to your point, the pictures, social media looks so picture perfect, and then it was this tragic outcome. Judge Ashley Willcott, always appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.